Hi, this is David Tarras, head of the Federal Criminal Defense Practice at the Rossen Law Firm. What we're going to be speaking about on today's video is a new wave of criminal investigations, federal criminal investigations, and soon-to-be prosecutions that we're seeing as it relates to additional COVID-19 relief fraud, and that is fraud related to the Employee Retention Credit Tax, or the ERC, more commonly referred to. We've had previous videos about PPP fraud, Paycheck Protection Program, as well as EIDL loan fraud. But now this kind of next frontier is with the ERC tax credit. So what this credit was another opportunity that the federal government offered for small business employers to receive relief from the very severe effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on businesses. Now, certain businesses, certain employers qualified for this tax. And as of mid-September of this year of 2023, the IRS is starting to finally catch up and realize that possibly as much as $2.8 billion of fraudulent tax credits have been claimed during this period. Now, the period that we're talking about is 2020 to 2021. This tax credit was designed for two very specific purposes, and a third that's not as common, that was more appropriate in 2021. But mainly we're looking at two different things, two different forms of eligibility here. One is for businesses that were either fully or partially suspended by a government order as it related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The second is businesses that had a substantial or nominal loss in gross receipts due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're seeing all of these fraudulent claims, and so much, or at least alleged fraudulent claims, and so much of it is because, like PPP, like EIDL, and perhaps significantly more, the eligibility requirements were extremely complex for being eligible and being able to accomplish receiving a credit on this tax. And they changed over time. A lot of completely innocent individuals are going to be caught up in this investigation. It is a hot button area for the Department of Justice at this time. There's as many as 600,000 pending claims right now. There's been a few hundred criminal investigations or prosecutions already started, and thousands more of these claims are being audited. Not only are individuals being looked at specifically for fraudulent activity as it relates to claiming this tax or submitting to the IRS a request for relief under the ERC tax credit program, but also for large scale, what the IRS refers to as marketing or solicitation mills, who are actively reaching out to individuals in an attempt to help them process these credits or apply from these credits in exchange for a monetary benefit. You might be a victim. Okay, you might be a victim of a solicitation of somebody calling you and saying, did you have X, Y, and Z qualifications during the years of 20 to 21, giving you maybe less or significantly less than the IRS requires as far as the eligibility in order to obtain this credit, and then offering you some sort of benefit in exchange for benefit that this solicitor or this marketer will receive in their turn for this solicitation. So that is one area where the Department of Justice is going to be cracking down, and then also cracking down on individuals who claimed these tax credits. There are hundreds of different ways that a completely innocent person could have made a mistake just based on the complexity of these rules that were changing during the 20 to 21 time period. If you didn't do a very, very deep dive or use a very reputable and an accountant that you trust in order to claim this tax credit, you could be under audit, could be under investigation. If you do believe that you may have mistakenly applied for this tax credit, if you may have done so because COVID-19 just really, really hurt businesses, and you maybe didn't realize, or maybe realized that you thought you weren't going to apply for it, but you needed help and weren't getting help from the government that you need. So you may have embellished on your application for this credit, or if you might be a victim to these mills who are contacting employers to try and induce them into signing up with them so that the solicitor can gain a financial benefit, you need to contact the Rossen Law Firm, contact our federal criminal defense program so we can review your case, do our own audit of the paperwork that you submitted or did not submit but were supposed to submit to see if you might have any criminal exposure for fraud. The IRS has established a program by which individuals who may have made a mistake or realized later on after they submitted for this credit when they still have a claim pending, created a program by which they can self-report and pay back the money or withdraw their claim if it is still pending. Because the stipulations and the eligibility are very, very complex and convoluted. For example, if your business had suffered a partial or complete suspension of activities due to COVID-19 based on a valid government order, there are specific rules as it relates to what is a valid government order that makes you eligible for the ERC credit. For example, if the government order was not in fact an official order but a recommendation, for example, asking your client base, your customers, recommending that they do not perform a certain activity, that they do not go in to your store if your store during that time period did offer in-person services that were affected by COVID. A recommendation, even a strong one, is not necessarily a government order under this rule, like a stay-at-home order, a shelter-in-place order. If your supply chain was significantly limited, that might not even qualify you, even though your business was substantially affected. And you may have, under that theory, mistakenly, not intentionally, requested one of these credits. So it's very convoluted, it's complex. If you think that you might be audited, or your taxes, your employer taxes might be audited, or you might be the victim of someone who solicited your business and said that they would be able to get you one of these credits, and you may not have been eligible, but you were induced and perhaps fraudulently induced, please do not hesitate to contact us at the Rossen Law Firm to see how we can help you.